2016 campaign.
Right.
He doesn't take money from fossil fuel companies because they're destroying the planet. No, he doesn't take money from them, but he pays them. And actually, if you go back to 2016, it was in excess of $1 million that he paid for his private jets through the 2016 campaign. This latest figure was just helping other candidates during the midterms in 2018. So he has a long history of paying fossil fuel companies to fly him around in a private jet. He loves fossil fuels.
Well, the Sanders campaign came out with this statement. This expense was for transportation for the senator's 9-day, 9-state tour to support Democratic candidates up and down the ballot ahead of Election Day. Well, I can understand that because you got to be in a bunch of different places, back to back to back. And we're all for private jets, but there is some hypocrisy going on here, isn't there?
There is. He's taken a pledge during the 2016 campaign to be carbon neutral, and he gave a lot of criticism because I don't think Hillary signed on right away. Well, the way he's able to achieve his carbon neutrality, he takes a page from Al Gore. He paid less than $5,000, I believe it was like $4,900, to a company called Native Energy, and therefore they absolved him of all his carbon dioxide sins and emissions.
Wait a minute. The carbon credit, right? How does that work? I spent $300,000 on jet travel, and I'm going to give some company $5,000 to do what?
Well, they do all kinds of things. Sometimes they plant trees in Africa. They invest. I believe the company he invested in was putting in some kind of sand water filters, or investing in some technology in Africa to help Africans. And they do anything they can to support renewable energy, solar, wind. It's just a way you can greenwash your money, if you will, to another company. You get a little certificate. You can tell people you're carbon neutral, and then all your sins of emissions have been forgiven.
It doesn't sound as if you are letting Bernie off the hook regarding this.
No, in fact, Bernie comes from a long line. Just last month, the UN environmental chief had to resign for being up in the air 80% of the time. It was the UN internal audit said he was an embarrassment. You have Leonardo DiCaprio, who flies 8,000 miles to pick up an environmental award. You have John Travolta, who actually is the only one who gets the hypocrisy of this issue. He said he's not the best spokesman for climate change, even though he's a big activist, because he flies jets around. He's got a whole airline hangar in his home. You have Al Gore, who lives in private jets and flies all around with the huge carbon emissions. But again, this is a sort of tone-deaf thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger, who just went to the UN summit in Poland and called President Trump crazy for not believing in climate change, he commuted daily to the governor's mansion when he was governor, at the same time touting his global warming bill. There's a total disconnect between what they claim to be doing and what the reality is. They want everyone else to give up fossil fuels. They themselves are unwilling to make an ounce of change in their lives.
I wonder if they're watching us right now on their private jets. Mark Morano from ClimateDepot.com. Mark, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right. Straight ahead, Congress set to vote on a short-term plan today to delay a government shutdown. But will a long-term deal get done? And will it include money for a border wall? Plus 19 shopping days till Christmas. We got a bunch of great ideas for you coming up.
Christmas party high.
Your enamel is very precious. Acidic foods can wear away your enamel. Your tooth is going to look yellower, more dull. I recommend Pro-Enamel because it helps protect and strengthen your enamel. It's pro-enamel. It's the positive thing.
The Season of Adventure sales event is happening now. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Freezing cold, blazing heat. Rain-X Silicone Advantage wiper blades are engineered to withstand the most extreme conditions. They last 2 times longer than traditional wipers. If Rain-X Silicone Advantage wipers survive these conditions, clearly they'll last in yours. Rain-X, outsmart the elements. Find Rain-X Silicone Advantage wipers at these retailers.
The salute that captivated the nation. After Bob Dole's moving tribute to George H.W. Bush, he reflects on his relationship with the former president on the next Your World.
I'm young. I'm not supposed to have high blood pressure.
If you just learned you have high blood pressure, or you're already treating it with medication, you can benefit from adding the Zona Plus to your treatment plan.
medication is not the answer all the time for treatment of blood pressure.
The Zona Plus therapy is safe and easy to do, at home or on the go. Each daily treatment takes only 12 minutes. Do it while you're watching TV, during breakfast, relaxing, even before a workout.
I started using the Zona, and within the first 2 weeks, I was noticing a big difference. It was very exciting.
I've been using it now for about 1.5 years, and I absolutely love it.
The Zona Plus is a drug-free, software-controlled, handheld device that's clinically proven to help lower blood pressure. If you are not a fan of prescriptions, the idea of using a non-invasive medical device seems like a great alternative. The science behind the Zona Plus is based on an isometric technology, which was initially developed by a respected cardiopulmonary physiologist. The same technology evolved into the patented Zona Plus therapy.
Every once in a while, I remind him, "Are you doing your Zona?" And he'll say, "Yep."
Every day. Neither of us take any medication for blood pressure anymore.
No.
It's all done.
In studies, 90% of people lowered their blood pressure from 10 to 15 points in as few as 4 to 8 weeks.
I'm the type of person that needs to be in control of my life. And the Zona Plus gives me that opportunity to be in control of my blood pressure. And that is such an empowering feeling.
And with the company's fantastic 90-day money-back guarantee, backed by a full refund of the purchase price, there's no risk. You have everything to gain by giving Zona Plus a try for 90 days. Call now at 800-830-2039 or visit us online at zonaplus.com.
Okay, we have only 19 more shopping days until Christmas. We have got you covered, though, so no worries, with some more deals exclusively for you, the Fox & Friends viewer. Megan Meany with Megan Morning Deals is back with us to tell us what we have on the table.
Yes, I do. So Mega Morning Deals icon on the Fox & Friends website is where you find these fabulous deals, starting with Adrian Vittadini and Tahari handbags in all shapes and sizes. Look at these. These are
really
big,
pretty,
lovely weekender bags, all the way down to messenger bags. And look at this tote, super high-end,
really
like something
pretty.
you would find in the department stores, typically up to $435. But for you guys, 90% off, $29 to $49 for this variety of lovely ladies'
Good
handbags
bags to take on an
right?
airplane.
Moving on, these you cannot tell these are not real diamonds. This is cubic zirconia, but AAA grade, which is the best. We have white gold, gold-plated, rose gold-plated earrings, bracelets. They come in a lovely package. You might not even have to wrap it, which is always a plus. $24 to $25, normally $150 to $170, you guys.
And different
shapes. So that's a major deal, up
diamonds,
to 85% off.
Okay.
Really pretty.
What about the blankets?
We need to get one of these to Janice outside. Plush, lush, you know, for a blanket. Who doesn't love one? You can throw it on the couch. You can throw it on the bed. It's lovely for your home decor and also just super cozy. We have all these great colors. High-end luxe, $39 for these. It's a great deal, up to 76% off Mega Morning Deals. Everybody loves the fur blanket. We have the cute little animal print. Okay, kids, these are iPad and phone-inspired toys. They look like a tablet or a phone, but it's a toy. You turn it on. It's got like 12 educational features. You can hear the sounds, all sorts of learning things your daughter might like. She can learn sounds and numbers. She probably already knows all that because she's a smart mama. $12. Typically more like $31. So that's a savings of 69%.
Okay, what about
And then
this
we have
little
these
guy?
fun superhero toys.
Brian was playing with this
turn that
earlier.
on and see if that'll fly for you. Toss it up. Toss it up.
Oh,
bye.
So cool.
You're supposed to put your hand under it, and it's motion censored, and it won't hit the ground. And then we have these figurines.
If you have a dog at home, they love things like that, right?
This is a job for Superman. And I think
Those are
flying
cute.
that superhero was also a job for Superman,
How much
not
are these,
for
Megan?
Ainsley. These are $16 to $29, $59 normally, you guys. So super savings, Mega Morning Deals. It's all on the website. Get a jump on your Christmas shopping. You can't go wrong.
Thank you so much. These deals are exclusively for you, the viewer. All right, Dana Lash and Newt Gingrich are both here live. They're coming up, so stick around.
The typical vacuum head has its limitations, so Shark invented Duo Clean. While deep cleaning carpets, the added soft brush roll picks up large particles. gives floors a polished look, and fearlessly devours piles. Duo Clean technology, corded and cord-free.
Steinmart's biggest 14-hour sale of the year is here with huge holiday savings. Save up to 50% on sweaters, boots, handbags, activewear, jewelry, sleepwear, and tons of gifts. Hurry in to get $10 off when you spend $30 this Friday and Saturday at Steinmart.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled commercial for this important announcement.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. A recent clinical sleep study confirms that MyPillow does change and improve the quality of your sleep. It proved you get less sleep interruptions on MyPillow. It increases your restorative deep sleep. It helps reduce your snoring, and it improves the oxygen levels to help you wake up feeling refreshed. And there's so much more. Since inventing MyPillow, I've had hundreds of thousands of people tell me that MyPillow has changed their lives.
I sleep better. I wake up, I feel refreshed, I feel healthy.
I would wake up multiple times throughout the night, not getting into a deep sleep until I found MyPillow. I did not have a solution, and now I do.
Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use this promo code and Mike will give you a second MyPillow absolutely free. Hurry, this offer ends soon.
MyPillow works because you can adjust my patented fill to get the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of your sleep position. I also made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota, and I back it with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty.
The same research study also showed that a full 78% of participants showed improvement in their sleep. 78%!
Before MyPillow, sleeping was a nightmare. First night I got it, slept like a baby. Just was out, completely out.
So if you want to fall asleep faster, get deep restorative sleep, have less snoring interruptions, and wake up feeling more refreshed, don't wait another minute. Order your very own MyPillow now.
I personally guarantee that MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own.
Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use this promo code and Mike will give you a second MyPillow absolutely free. That's right, 2 MyPillows for the price of 1. Hurry, this offer ends soon.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
This is an invitation to dive into a world bursting with life. Are you ready to become a part of this? Atlantis, Bahamas at heart.
Book your winter vacation by December 10th at 1-800-ATLANTIS or AtlantisBahamas.com.
I just got my Ancestry DNA results. 74% Italian. And I found out that I'm from the big toe of that sexy Italian boot. So this holiday season, it's Ancestry DNA per tutti! Order your kit now at Ancestry.com.
Through our tears, let us know the blessings of knowing and loving you, a great and noble man, the best father a son or daughter could have.
Today, the Senate and House is expected to pass a short-term spending bill. However, the big issue has not been solved yet.
We have an extremely difficult situation on the border, something that I have not seen in my 32 years of service.
A desperate search underway right now for 5 Marines after warplanes collide off the coast of Japan.
Senator Kirsten Gillibrand wants you to forget about men because she says the future is female.
This is essentially an anti-male, grievance-wallowing dog whistle.
To us, he was close to perfect, but not totally perfect. The man couldn't stomach vegetables, especially broccoli. And by the way, he passed these genetic defects along to us.
You know, the whole world found out that George Herbert Walker Bush didn't like broccoli during the administration because they had a ban on broccoli on Air Force One. And then word spread, and then half the country said, you know what? I don't like it either.
And in the eulogy, 43 said that about his dad, that he wasn't a good dancer and that he didn't like vegetables, especially broccoli.
And he's passed that on.
Yeah. Right. Meanwhile, the final farewell took place yesterday and is taking place today. This is a live look outside St. Martin's Episcopal Church in Houston, Texas, where the Texas funeral for President George H.W. Bush will happen later this morning.
Giant crowd showed up overnight to pay their respects and file past the casket, as you can see right there, as Bush 41 was in repose.
Yeah, William LaJeunesse joins us live from the Bush Presidential Library in College Station, where the president will be buried today. William, yesterday I saw some people being interviewed. One guy had come from Hawaii, went to Washington just to pay respects. It's incredible.
You know, Ainsley, we've been here for 4 days. A lot of people are using this as a teaching moment, bringing their kids to the library here to understand the man and his place in history. You know, when George Bush left Yale with a degree in economics, everyone thought he'd go to Wall Street. Instead, in his words, he wanted to make his way in life in the oil fields of West Texas, which is why we're here. He made his life in Houston in 1958, and then after the White House, 11,000 people so far attended that public viewing that you were referring to. After those services at 10 a.m. At St. Martin's Episcopal in Houston, there'll be a funeral train. It will make its way here, arriving here about 3:25, leaving around 1 o'clock there. Now, one of the reasons that Texas A&M is home to the George Bush Library is because it was founded as a military college. There are still 2,400 cadets here, and they follow tradition, duty, honor, integrity, service. We spoke to two who said they are honored to be part of the ceremony.
A lot of things that you can emulate from President George Bush. We hope to really carry on the traditions of showing the utmost respect to every tradition and everything that we stand for.
So the train will pass through 8 cities, about 70 miles. It will slow, but it won't stop. Now, the sides of the funeral car are plexiglass, allowing those along the route to see the casket. Again, it arrives here around 3:25. There'll be a chorus from the Corps of Cadets, as well as the Aggie, Fighting Aggie marching band. Funeral trains were pretty common back in the 1900s. You think Lincoln, Garfield, Grant. The last one, Eisenhower, 69. But Bush said, I went to war on a train, I came home on a train, I want my last trip to College Station on a train. The family will step off the passenger cars first, followed by the casket, short motorcade here to the library. Then there'll be a private service. So the cameras, all the pool cameras will be where I'm at right here. Then the family will disappear behind a tree line for a private ceremony where the president will be buried alongside Barbara and their daughter Robin, who died at age 3 of leukemia. Back to you.
Wow. Thank you very much, William. And of course, all the public events will be live right here on the Fox News Channel.
Jim McGrath, who is a longtime aide to President Bush, 41 for 25 years, he tweeted out that 11,657 people took the time out of their lives to pay respect to the 41st president in Washington. So how great is that?
That is great. Plus many more overnight down in Houston. As you watched the coverage yesterday, starting in our nation's capital in the actual rotunda, and then the casket being brought down the stairs and then being transported up Pennsylvania and Massachusetts Avenue to the National Cathedral. And there at the National Cathedral, it was a who's who. It was great to see both sides. In a bitterly divided Washington, D.C., both sides of the political aisle were there to salute, particularly the front row, the life and times of George Herbert Walker Bush, who was remembered for his long-time commitment to public service, his leadership, devotion to friends, his family, and he was a bit of a joker from time to time, we heard yesterday.
Yeah, we did. Look at that picture right there. You have the Trumps, then you have the Obamas, the Clintons, and the Nixons, those 4 surviving presidents, as well as, of course, 43 who choked back some tears as he was remembering his father. Watch this.
We're going to miss you. Your decency, sincerity, and kind soul will stay with us forever. So through our tears, let us know the blessings of knowing and loving you, a great and noble man, the best father a son or daughter could have. And in our grief, let us smile knowing that Dad is hugging Robin and holding Mom's hand again.
Tapping the casket. I said Nixon. I meant Carter. President Carter and his wife were there too, sitting at the end.
Right, and I said idealistically in the first hour, I say, you know, it was great to see a magical moment seeing all the presidents together. I guess for me, maybe not for them. You know, for me to see all the presidents together was great.
Was it magical for them?
Yeah, I don't know. I could imagine though. You know, although Melania and the president Obama don't have much friction. President Obama was actually like he was running for office 2 months ago, as opposed to being a former president. And then President Trump's been very critical of President Obama, so I get it.
Melania, she did say hello to the Obamas, and Michelle's book had just come out where some things were said. And then she looked at Hillary Clinton, and Hillary had her hand still in her lap and just shook her head, yes, at her, acknowledged her, but didn't shake her hand. But then President Bush 43, he went into the pew and said hi to all of them, and then he couldn't get to the Carters because he couldn't reach them. So he walked around, said hey to the Clintons, and then said hey to the Carters, which I thought was sweet.
Yeah, I mean, the Bush are bringing everyone together, and I said, I think this is going to be a great moment for the Trump family and the Bush family. I think that they have tension. We know about it. But I think they're both good at putting it behind them.
Not a time
Trump does not hold on to grudges. I mean, if you look at Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, Governor Huckabee, you look at Marco Rubio,
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz. I mean, listen, that's part of the game, but don't take it personal. And I sense at Blair House and at the White House over the last 2 days, they really healed the rift.
Well, let's see. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about politics. The Senate and the House, the government is about to run out of money, I think, tomorrow. But it looks as if they're going to pass a 2-week spending bill to allow the government to keep running. But then they're going to have to battle over whether or not the president's going to get more than $1.6 billion to build his wall. 1.6 is the number that the Senate has passed. The House has passed 5. Essentially, the White House would look for it to be a win if they can get any money more than 1.6. But from what we heard from the Democrats yesterday, that probably ain't happening.
Well, the president says we need that wall, and when we don't have the wall, they're having to close down ports of entry. We saw that happen at Tijuana, where Tijuana meets with San Diego. We saw that at the end of November 25th, I believe, and where the Border Patrol agents had to use the tear gas because you had migrants that were throwing things at the officers. Well, yesterday in Arizona, they were bracing for another potential storming of the border. Federal law enforcement and the military troops there, they had major training sessions. They called them large-scale operational readiness exercises just to act out all the necessary steps to secure the port of entry there.
Yeah, and just a quick thing on the wall, which I think everybody agrees I think we need, if they put politics aside for a second. The pushback on Senator Schumer and Nancy Pelosi is actually from their left, not to give the president anything he wants, even if it helps the country. They just go, no wall. They can't answer the follow-up question of why not. And you can't find $5 billion when you're finding all this money for all these other issues?
Brian, there are a lot of people in politics in Washington who don't want the wall. They think what we got right now is just fine.
Fantastic.
There is a bit of a fence down between Tijuana and San Diego, and apparently over the last couple of weeks there was a member of the caravan, a woman, 8 months pregnant. She and others climbed over the wall. She and the others were arrested on the American side. She was detained, and then she had a baby. And now the baby, according to law, is an American citizen. We had Michelle Malkin on about a half an hour ago, and she said, this is the law, but if you don't like it, you got to change it.
President Trump has been right about this. He diagnosed automatic birthright citizenship as one of the biggest magnets and incentives to come here and break the law. You can build 50-foot, 100-foot walls all along the 2,000 miles of the southern border. But if you don't turn off these magnets, it's going to result in a continued flow. And we're going to see these caravans over and over and over again. Unfortunately, people in both parties don't want to address it.
Well, the woman who gave birth on American soil was hoping to make it to the United States to be reunited with her family that lives in Columbus, Ohio. And she said giving birth on U.S. soil was a big reward for the very long journey.
That's how we got Governor Richardson. His mom took a train into America from Mexico, and we have a governor in New Mexico.
All right. Well, that baby is an American citizen. That is the law. The mother was 19 years old, 8 months pregnant, started complaining of abdominal pain. They took her to the hospital, and then the baby was born.
And talk about babies, Carly Shimkus from the country of New Jersey.
Oh, my gosh, thank you.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
And you called me a baby. That's because I'm getting up there in age, in my opinion, and you think I'm still young.
Yes, you do.
All right, we straight to a Fox News alert right here. A desperate search underway right now for 5 Marines after warplanes collided off the coast of Japan. 2 crew members have been rescued so far. One of them is in fair condition. The second Marine is being evaluated at a hospital. The fighter jet and refueling plane crashed during a routine training exercise like this one you see here. We'll bring you more information as it comes in. A hero detective dragged by a teenage gang member will never recover. Those haunting words coming from a prosecutor during the attempted murder trial of the teen who dragged NYPD detective Dolce Vave 2 blocks in a stolen car last year. Justin Morell's lawyer claims it wasn't intentional. Prosecutors say Detective Vave's speech is limited and he has trouble recognizing his wife and 4-year-old daughter. How tragic. The Trump administration is expected to roll back Obama-era regulations on the coal industry. The EPA will reportedly announce plans today to raise the limit for carbon emissions. Under the new rule, plants could emit up to 1,900 pounds of carbon dioxide. That's compared to 1,400 pounds under Obama. The move will make it easier to build new coal plants. And tonight is the U.S. Capitol Christmas tree lighting. The 80-foot fir from Oregon will feature thousands of ornaments and lights. Now, this is a video from last year's ceremony. And a 4th grade student from Oregon will join House Speaker Paul Ryan in lighting the tree. She earned the honor after winning an essay contest, beating out more than 1,200 students for that honor. So good for her. And those are your headlines.
There you go. They were going to light the tree a couple of days ago, but they did not because of the funeral week for President Bush.
Makes sense.
All right.
Thanks, Carly.
Thanks, Carly.
Thanks, Carly. Meanwhile, this top Obama FBI official helped oversee the Clinton email probe. Now he's out of the agency. Our next guest was a top Clinton aide and says it's time for a special counsel to investigate President Obama's FBI.
Plus, we all loved this moment when Fox and Friends was a clue on Jeopardy this week.
With Steve, Ainsley, and Brian, Fox blank blank. Dave.
What is and Friends?
Correct.
Well, Dave is a retired officer, and he got the answer right, and he's going to join us live to talk about how he won big with Fox and Friends.
With us.
Whatever makes you feel like a rock star. Do you kick the dirt or work at Vegas style? Do you hit the strip or roll? Joining meeting.
Fight your cough and break up mucus with new Alka-Seltzer Plus Cough and Mucus. Just one pill works 12 hours, all day or all night. Max your cold relief with Alka-Seltzer Plus.
Smart news.
I was only watching news I agreed with.
I was only getting news from social media.
Now, I use Smart News.
It has news from all sides.
I trust Smart
News. Download Smart News for free today.
If you want a car from a company that's been building them for 115 years, get a Ford. If you want a car with driver assist technology, get a Ford. If you want Waze and Amazon Alexa compatibility, get a Ford. If you want a car that doesn't have any of that, get anything but a Ford. Otherwise, you're gonna want a Ford.
If you're looking for the perfect holiday gift for someone special to you, give a gift that will be truly appreciated. The Omaha Steaks Favorite Gift Package. It's filled with $232 worth of great food for just $59.99. That's 74% off only on this special holiday offer. The people on your nice list will receive 4 tender, mouth-watering filet mignons, 4 extra thick boneless pork chops, 4 premium boneless chicken breasts, 4 classic juicy Omaha Steaks burgers, 4 stuffed baked potatoes, and 4 caramel apple tartlets. Your order will be delivered straight to your home or the destination of your choice, so you can give this wonderful gift to anybody on your holiday list. As a special holiday gift from us to you, if you order right now, we'll include 4 additional Omaha Steaks burgers free. That's 8 total. You get it all. Omaha Steaks Favorite Gift Package, a $232 value for just $59.99. Give everyone a gift they can appreciate. Give them the Favorite Gift Package from Omaha Steaks today.
Billions of mouths, billions of problems. Morning breath, garlic breath, stinky breath? There's a TheraBreath for you. TheraBreath Fresh Breath Oral Rinse instantly fights all types of bad breath and works for 24 hours, so you can breathe easy. There's TheraBreath at Walmart.
Are the credit cards in your wallet actually the best ones for you? At NerdWallet, we sort through hundreds of credit cards to find the top cards for travel, balance transfer, and earning rewards. Stop missing out. Visit NerdWallet.com today.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. The end of Medicare open enrollment is only days away. You may be eligible for a more affordable plan with better benefits. Now, plans with dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage may be available for you. The MedicareAdvantage.com helpline is accepting calls right now to see if you're eligible. It's easy, just one call away. Tell us the deductibles you prefer, the doctors you want to see, and if you want prescription drug coverage. There may be plans for you with $0 premiums and plans that help cover diabetic and incontinence supplies, dental adhesives, vitamins, allergy medications, and more. Call now to find out about new plans and benefits that may be available to you. Take advantage of this free service. Don't delay. There are only days left before Medicare open enrollment ends. Get the benefits you deserve.
Call 1-800-258-7196. That's 1-800-258-7196. Call now.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus, every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7, Channel 115.
All right, all traces of the FBI leadership under President Obama started to disappear. Listen to this. As another top official yesterday who helped oversee the Trump, Russia, and Clinton email investigations, if you can call it that, announces retirement. And our next guest, a former Clinton advisor, says Obama's FBI abused their power and calls for a special counsel to investigate. Mark Penn is here to explain. Another special counsel? What makes you think that?
Well, I think you probably have to wait until Mueller delivers his report. But boy, the day after that happens, it's time, and 2/3 of the public really says you need a special counsel to look into what happened at the FBI and the Justice Department during the Trump election and with the Russia-Trump probe. You know, the public wants it, and it's got to be done because the FBI and Justice Department can investigate itself.
We don't know why Comey did what he did. We don't know about why the July 5th meeting with so many exonerations and immunity grants were given for Hillary Clinton on July 5th. We don't know if it's up and up. Would Comey hopped out and said we found something on a laptop in New York on Weiner's laptop? But when you talk about a change up top, take a look at this. The latest was Bill Precept yesterday. Comey's out. McCabe's out. Peter Strzok is out. Lisa Page, James Baker, James Rybicki, Michael Corton, Josh Campbell, James Turgle, Greg Bauer, Steinbeck, and Gia Clone. I mean, listen, some retired. The others were forced to quit. Some were fired. This is unbelievable.
Well, fired, retired, resigned, left. Look, the good news is Christopher Wray gets to appoint a new FBI. We needed one. That's pretty obvious. But what's going to happen here? You know, McCabe and Comey have contradicted themselves on significant testimony, and it's never been resolved. Who's lying? Who committed perjury? Come on, no serious investigation has really been done of this mess, even though everyone has fled for the hills.
Comey goes behind closed doors with Congress. They have some agreement to release non-confidential material of the transcripts. What do you think comes of that?
I don't think much comes because he knows that the Republican Congress has a short period of time, and so he'll just say classified, under investigation, and he knows that the transcripts are going to be public. I think he'll do that routine again.
How do you compare the Louis Freeh, I don't need a computer FBI to the Mueller, Comey FBI?
Well, look. The Mueller FBI and Comey FBI, they were clearly buds together here. And this whole investigation comes from Rosenstein and Comey working together to get Mueller to investigate President Trump. And that's why there was corruption in this whole thing from the very beginning.
And it's conspicuous by its absence how Comey doesn't mention Mueller almost at all in his bio because he doesn't want people to see the association. But we get it.
They don't want those pictures coming up again.
Mark Penn, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Straight ahead, Pete Hegseth getting an exclusive helicopter ride with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Pete is live in Jerusalem on this historic day for America coming up. And Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is rumored to be a 2020 contender, and she has bad news for men. We only need women.
Guess who just bagged the biggest unicorn in the valley? Best $1.3 billion I ever spent. Should have asked Markham.
Ever wonder where the people with all the answers get all the answers? Ask Markham. Accountants and advisors.
Cartels tell me he was on his way to a drop.
Go get her done.
Don't be stupid, or you disappear.
The mule.
Season of Adventure sales event is happening now. Land Rover, above and beyond. The Season of Adventure sales event is happening now. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Soft. Softer. And the world's softest ever. Introducing the world's softest pajamas from Pajamagram. What makes these pajamas the world's softest? The fleece lining is carefully brushed, which makes it both soft and warm, while the knit on the outside is silky smooth. She'll love the way the world's softest pajamas look and feel, and so will you. You can order these pajamas now in time for Christmas. And every package comes already wrapped, so you don't have to do another thing. And when she's happy, you're happy too. So go ahead and spoil her. Guys, give the gift that keeps on giving. Softness, comfort, and relaxation. Call or go online now at Pajamagram.com to order the world's softest pajamas today. Every order comes with free gift packaging and a personalized gift card. Delivery is guaranteed by Christmas. So order now at Pajamagram.com.
Coming home to Houston as the 41st president is laid to rest and friends and family pay tribute. Shepard Smith is live with special coverage today.
The job boards I used to use delivered tons of the wrong resumes. Those sites were, well, not smart. Then there's Smart. ZipRecruiter helps me find people with the right skills, education, and experience for my job, then actively invites them to apply. So I get qualified candidates fast. No wonder ZipRecruiter is rated #1 by employers in the U.S.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Fox.
Okay, one last check.
Much better. Thank you, doctor.
If you're planning on retirement, plan on vision coverage through the same eye doctor network you've come to know and trust. Good eye health is important, and VSP offers individual vision plans so you can continue the same great vision care you've enjoyed through every stage of life.
Thank you, VSP.
VSP individual vision plans. See better for life for less.
All right, some quick headlines for you on this Thursday morning. The CEO of General Motors headed back to Capitol Hill later today. Mary Barra just met with Ohio lawmakers who want her to stop the company from closing its Lordstown, Ohio plant. They say she's open to repurposing the facility, whatever that means. Last month, GM announced plans to lay off 14,000 workers in the United States and Canada to cut costs and shift focus to electric, better selling vehicles, they hope. And jobs in the economy will be the focus of meetings at the White House later today. President Trump has not said if he will attend those talks with executives from Google, Microsoft, Oracle, and IBM. And that is some of the news.
All right, Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, rumored to be a 2020 contender, and now leaving men out of her vision of the future.
In a tweet, she claims, quote, "Our future is female, intersectional, powered by our belief in one another, and we're just getting started."
Radio talk show host Dana Loesch joins us right now, live from Dallas. Dana, good morning to you. What do you think about that? The future is female.
Yeah, well, good morning to all of you as well. Well, where are the men in the future? Because that sounds like a pretty boring future if it's just women.
Good news for ladies'
night. This is
night.
Kirsten Gillibrand, and I am fascinated, by the way, by her recent shift to the far left. She's trying to compete in a field with other Democrats who are, they're very super progressive, very, very far left, very different from what the party used to be in the 90s, and she's trying to reinvent herself. And so she comes out with nonsense like this. This doesn't even make any sense. It's silly, and you're alienating half of America, and it's pretty sexist. It's a sexist tweet.
Well, Marco Rubio saw that, and then he sent this tweet out, and we're going to put it up. He put, "Our future is American, an identity based not on gender, race, ethnicity, or religion, but on the powerful truth that all people are created equal with a God-given right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." What do you think of that?
Well, I think that makes a little bit more sense than what she had said. I mean, it shouldn't be male or female. It should just be everyone's. I mean, that's the future is everybody's future. So his was a little bit more on point than what she had said. But this kind of nonsense, this intersectionality and the identity politics, when has that ever brought in a winning election for Democrats? How is that working for them? How is it working for this party when they've alienated so many people around the country? Just the other day, Claire McCaskill was talking about how the Democrat Party didn't reach out to rural voters, and it was overlooking flyover voters and basically middle-class moderates. It was completely overlooking those individuals to go after the fringes, and this is further proof of it. They have to learn from their mistakes, and stuff like this doesn't reach out to anybody but those far-left progressives who, by the way, are never going to vote for Kirsten Gillibrand in the first place because they think that she's a poser. They don't think that she's authentically far-left. There are far more authentically far-left candidates in the Democrat field than Gillibrand, so this is all for nothing. It's going to be a very crowded 2020 field. She's not going to get out of it.
You think she's just trying to reach out to women because that many people would say that's President Trump's weaker area?
I think, in a way, I think that this is her attempt, Ainsley, to do so, but I think it's also still just super far left women, because your average, everyday, moderate woman or independent woman who is trying to, work also to keep a roof over her family's head and make sure also along with, her husband, her spouse, that there's food on the table. They're not going to be concerned with, identity politics in Kirsten Gillibrand's tweet. They're just concerned about how am I going to be able to afford health care? How am I going to be able to keep my job? How am I going to be able to make sure that my kids are healthy and taken care of? This stuff is nonsense that doesn't speak to the average, everyday concern of the American voter.
And lastly, she took on Bill Clinton too, 25 years too late. But according to Clinton advisor Philip Brains, says over 20 years ago, she took the Clintons' endorsement, the money, and the seat. Hypocrite. Interesting strategy for 2020 primaries. Best of luck. Sarcasm, obviously. And that's a Democrat. Talking about a Democrat who they have to win over Democrats. All right. Thanks, Dana.
Exactly. That's a part of the civil war on the Democrat side.
All right. Joining us from Texas today, Dana Lash.
Thank you, Dana.
Thanks.
Speaking of Texas, we have a live look outside of St. Martin's Episcopal Church in Houston. In just a few hours, Texas will say its final farewell to President George H.W. Bush. Newt Gingrich says that Bush 41 is a true patriot, and he joins us next.
Plus, Janice is outside with the crowd.
Start waving, everybody. We have birthdays. We have exciting things coming up. You don't want to stay tuned. Lots of weather, but an exciting announcement for several couples in the studio outside audience. Wave, everybody. Stay with us. We're back with Fox and Friends coming up.
That was great.
Yeah, I don't think I can eat another butt.
King's Hawaiian roll.
Irresistible King's Hawaiian Rolls. Just may be the best part of your holiday meal.
I knew these would be a hit.
Introducing Flawless, the new gold standard in facial hair removal. It looks like a lipstick, but inside is an 18-karat gold-plated head that removes hair instantly and painlessly for a smooth, flawless look. A built-in light makes it easy to see and remove every single hair. No nicks, burns, or irritation. Flawless is the fastest, easiest way to remove unwanted facial hair, guaranteed. Get free shipping today at finishingtouchflawless.com.
I know what you're thinking. I thought what you thought. Some things are just too good to be true. Just like you, I thought that reverse mortgages had to have some kind of catch, just a way for the banks to get your house, right? Well, then I did some homework, and I found out it's not any of that. It's not another way for the bank to get your house, and it's also not too good to be true. A reverse mortgage loan is a simple idea, really. You turn your home's equity into cash, and you pay it back when you leave the house. Most people use the money to pay off their existing mortgage or pay some bills, cover medical costs, even update their home. And, just as importantly,
you still own your home. And you make no monthly mortgage payments. It's a loan designed just for older Americans, and it's helped hundreds of thousands to live a more stable, secure retirement and stay in the home they love.
AAG is the leader in reverse mortgages. Call us today for your free information kit. It will answer all your questions and help you decide if a reverse mortgage is right for you and how to qualify.
I know what you're thinking. I did too. I felt the same way. But I checked it out, and I found out a lot more. It's pretty simple. A reverse mortgage from AAG can give you the retirement stability you're looking for. Maybe you want to check it out.
If you're 62 or older and own your own home, give AAG a call to receive your free information kit. You'll receive the information you're looking for, as well as tell you how much cash you may qualify for. Call 1-800-244-2209 and receive your free information kit.
AAG, bringing stability to your retirement.
All right, back with the Fox News Alert now. It is the one-year anniversary of President Trump announcing the U.S. Embassy's move to Jerusalem, the capital of the country.
Hard to believe it's been a year. Pete Hegseth sitting down for an exclusive interview with the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu.
And Pete joins us right now live this morning in the Holy City. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning. Good morning. That's right. We're going to have an opportunity in just a few hours to sit down exclusively with the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, right just steps away from the Western Wall, where today, to mark the one-year anniversary of the moving of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, he and the Prime Minister, the ambassador from the U.S., David Friedman, will light the menorah right there at the Western Wall, symbolizing the strong relationship that continues 1 year later between the Trump administration and Bibi Netanyahu. First of all, I guess I'll play a clip. We had a chance to sit down with David Friedman, the ambassador, just a few hours ago. This is what he said about the significance of the one-year anniversary of the embassy move.
And I think the president's decision to recognize Jerusalem, apart from it being something deeply appreciated by the pro-Israel community, was a great statement of foreign policy. I think it demonstrated that America stands with its allies, that America doesn't flinch from the pressures of other nations.
When they go to the Western Wall, guys, today together, it'll be the first time ever that a U.S. official has gone to the Western Wall with the sitting Prime Minister of Israel. So more history being made today, and Fox News Channel will be there. But earlier today, I had an opportunity to go with the Prime Minister up to northern Israel. We flew in an IDF helicopter up to the north of Israel in the Golan Heights, right near the Lebanon border, where right now Operation Northern Shield is going on. It's an IDF military operation to find Hezbollah terror tunnels. In fact, one tunnel discovered, dug from Lebanon into Israel, 80 feet deep, 600 feet long, 6 feet wide, and 100 feet into Israel. The IDF searching for more tunnels for fear that Hezbollah, backed by Iran, still seeks the destruction of Israel, wants to use those tunnels to sneak into northern Israel, take over a town, slaughter innocent civilians, capture them for ransom. So this day of a one-year anniversary, which is what I'm here to talk to the Prime Minister about, and the significance of Jerusalem, you also have that sense Israel's still living under the threat every single day of it to its own existence. So an interesting day with the Prime Minister to go behind the scenes and watch him operate.
Pete, how did he seem? He's also, I was just looking online, he's in a bit of hot water over there politically and maybe with other things. He's facing 4 different charges, suspected of accepting gifts. The Israeli police claim to have tapes showing that he negotiated to get better news coverage and things like that, and it goes on and on. Is he in a lot of hot water over there?
You know, the press is talking a lot about it, and he was asked about it today as well. But if you talk to his folks, they say because his opponents can't beat him at the ballot box, they're trying to beat him much like they're doing to the president here through a witch hunt. So they say these are old charges, not related to anything of significance. But you're right, there's definitely a sense that this military operation alongside that has his plate full. There's talk of potentially new elections here. If that were to happen, though, everyone you talk to almost acknowledges there's no strong opponent yet that would take on Bibi Netanyahu. So his grip on power remains very strong here. But with the investigations ongoing, a lot does remain to be seen.
Right, and we'll see this on Fox Nation, right, Pete?
We'll see it on Fox Nation, and we'll also tomorrow morning we'll have an extended portion for Fox and Friends of the interview with Prime Minister Netanyahu, as well as a little bit more from David Friedman. And then we've got a long-form special project working on Jerusalem. We're going to ask the Prime Minister about that as well, exclusively for Fox Nation. Yep.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, Pete. If you don't have Fox Nation, go get it, foxnation.com.
I watch it all the time now.
I do too. I was up last night watching it.
All right, let's bring in Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, and the author of Trump's America. He joins us from our nation's he joins us live. There he is in front of our nation's Capitol. And you know, Newt, this has been a very emotional week for a lot of people down in Washington, remembering the life and times of George Herbert Walker Bush, as he is laid to rest later today. What are your observations about him?
Well, I think, first of all, he has genuine friends over a lifetime of activity. The Bushes are only the second family in American history to have both a father and a son as president, the Adams being the other. His sons have been governor of 2 states. I mean, if you look at it, the impact of President Bush and his family has been truly historic. He also served the country for a very long time. The youngest naval fighter or naval pilot in World War II, flew 58 combat missions as the youngest pilot in the Navy, and was in fact at one point shot down and went right back up and kept flying. Then he went on to become a congressman, and then he went on to be the head of the CIA, the ambassador to, or representative, they weren't ambassador yet, to China. Really one of the people who opened up our relationship with China. Ended up Republican National Committee chairman, vice president under Reagan, and then president. I mean, it's a remarkable life of public service, and almost everywhere people ended up liking him and feeling that this was a good man, he was a decent man, and that he really wanted to do the best he could for his country. And he did so while having a very loving and very strong family.
We're showing some video of you from 1991 with him, and then also 1992 you were standing behind him when he was speaking at the podium. Any stories you want to share with us?
Well, look, I always felt that he was somebody that you could talk to very directly, and I thought that he was torn in his re-election campaign. He really loved being president. He didn't really love being candidate. And I remember one time going down for lunch with him in the spring and begging him to bring Jim Baker back, because I thought that President Bush was so important to the country. And I think, frankly, had he been reelected and had we been spared the Clintons, we would have been a lot better off. But he was just so focused on all the different things happening in foreign policy, where he played such a major role in getting the Soviet Union to collapse without a war and to make the transition into the modern period. And I think he found it very hard to sort of go back and be a candidate again. That wasn't something he particularly liked doing.
Yeah, I don't know how you feel about it, but Michael Goodwin writes, essentially, all these great qualities have always been out there, but the press never gave him a fair shake and they basically like Republicans when they're dead.
Look, there's no question about it. The liberal media despised Ronald Reagan until he had passed away, at which point they found many wonderful things. They attacked President George H.W. Bush relentlessly. They hated his 1988 winning campaign when they thought Dukakis should win. And now, of course, they're praising him. And let's not kid ourselves. At least 30% of the great affection that we're seeing in the Washington establishment is in contrast with President Trump. I mean, these are people who see this as an occasion to say, oh, those were the good old days. Well, the truth is this is a different era doing different things. I thought that the Trumps and the Bushes got along very well this week, and that it was a very nice coming together of people who had had tension, but at this moment, for the passing of the president, found a way to make the event and the president bigger than their personal attitudes.
And I read John Meacham's book. It says Newt Gingrich tried to convince President Bush not to raise taxes, that it would kill his re-election chances. So you were the canary in the coal mine there.
We know how that turned out. I do think, had he said no to the Democrats and gone to the country and said, if you vote Democrat in the fall campaign, I'll sign a tax bill. If you vote Republican, I'll continue to say no to new taxes. I think the Democrats would have caved in 24 hours. That's not, in the middle of the Iraq campaign, that's not a fight they wanted to have with the president. But his advisors were all, frankly, pro-tax increase guys, and they didn't want him to take that kind of bold position.
All right.
Okay.
He not only teaches history, he was part of it. Newt Gingrich, thank you very much for joining us live.
Trump's America is now out. All right, thanks, Newt. Meanwhile, President Trump's steel tariffs are paying off for American workers. We're live at a factory where business is booming. That's next.
And we all loved this moment when Fox and Friends was a clue on Jeopardy this week.
With Steve, Ainsley, and Brian, Fox blank blank. Dave.
What is and Friends?
Correct.
The retired officer got the answer right, and he won.